So there's a video going absolutely viral right now on X, and I wanted to share it with you guys because it's always good to share a bit of the truth from time to time because facts don't care about feelings. The truth is the truth, whether you like it or not. Currently, this video clip that you are about to watch with me has nearly 30 million views, and it was just dropped a few days ago. It has 28 million views in just a few days. Yeah, absolutely insane. Just bonkers numbers. Almost 30 million, and for good reason. So, with that being said, first off, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, greatly appreciate it. But let's dive in.
The first point is that everyone had slaves, okay? People of all colors became slaves for economic reasons, because of war, because slavery, as odious as it was simply a normal way of life. Arabs were extracting millions of black African slaves centuries before Christian nations did, for about 13 centuries, compared to the 3 centuries European nations ran the Atlantic slave trade. Arabs marched African slaves across the Sahara Desert, and as such, they died more often. It was customary to castrate them, and many died from this practice. The Arabs also enslaved over 1 million white European Christians. The term slavery, in fact, comes from the word Slav. The Slavs inhabited Eastern Europe and were taken by the Muslims of Spain in the 9th century. Not to mention that Africans had been enslaving each other for thousands of years. The point is that slavery, the second point is that slavery was not about race, and that's important. It was not about race. The only reason we think it's about race is because philosophers like David Hume in the 18th century ranked human beings and put Africans at the bottom, saying that they had no souls. The Enlightenment imposed the concept of race on a practice that had been going on for centuries in order to justify that practice. And why did they have to justify it? And this is the point. Because people in the West began to question slavery's moral validity. The fact is that people of all colors owned slaves, both as part of the Atlantic slave trade and outside of it. In the United States and Caribbean, black people owned thousands of black slaves, and so did the Native Americans. Nearly 20,000 of the Native American 5 civilized tribes sided with the Confederacy during the Civil War, fighting to keep slavery alive. 28% of the black population who were free in New Orleans pledged their support to the Confederacy. All of the 13 southern states of the Confederacy had substantial numbers of black slave owners. There were more than 250,000 free blacks, and nearly 4,000 of them were slave masters, who owned more than 20,000 slaves. The practice of slavery was legal, after all. We need to remember that governments did not own slaves. Slave owners did. In fact, the US government fought a war to end slavery. How much should the descendants of the 400,000 Union soldiers who lost their lives fighting to free the slaves pay to the descendants of the slaves they freed? Giving people lump sums of money does not work. Economists often point to the Georgia Land Lottery of 1832, in which parcels of land were distributed randomly. What happened to the descendants of those who were lucky enough to be given this land? Are they the richest families in Georgia? No. In fact, within one generation after the distribution of the Georgia land, one could not distinguish between those who had been given land and those who hadn't. Certainly my own direct experiences of working for 20 plus years in the inner city with families on welfare demonstrates this time and time again. Rather than give a man a fish, it is always better to teach him how to fish. All giving the fish does is make the giver feel better. Reparations might relieve white people of their guilt, but it will do little else. So back to my initial question. Why are we only discussing whether the West should pay reparations for slavery? Because while slavery was common to all civilizations, only one civilization developed a moral revulsion against it, very late in its history: Western civilization. Not even the leading moralists in other civilizations rejected slavery at all. Rather than be ashamed as Westerners, we should stand proud for having led the world out of a mentality where slavery was the norm, and we should vote against this motion.
I agree 1,000%. 1,000%. And I've talked about this before. This whole talk of reparations, it's a bit silly because, for me, I always try to put myself in other people's shoes, right? So if I'm a person, a white person, right? And now the government is telling me that I have to give up what I worked hard for to somebody else for something that somebody else did that I've never met a day in my life, right? Those people are long gone. Those people are in the dirt and have been in the dirt for a very long time. So I'm paying for what somebody else did that I had nothing to do with. I never even spoke to that person a single day in my life. Like that's just absolutely crazy to me. It's like it's like your grandfather, right? Pine boxing someone. I'm gonna try to keep it PG. You guys understand what I mean when I say pine boxing someone. Put somebody in a pine box, right? 6 feet in the dirt. He got away with it, right? This happened, I don't know. We'll say this happened in 1950. He got away with it though. Well, because of new technology and the ability to look at forensic evidence a bit differently now. Well, we figured out what happened in the situation and who, pine boxed Johnny. It was your grandfather. And now you have to go to prison for it because he's long gone. Does that make any sense? Like, that makes no sense. I had nothing to do with what my grandfather did. Like, what he did was obviously terrible, but like, why should I have to pay for something that he did? It's the same circumstance. Why should I have to pay for something that I didn't do? Yes, slavery was terrible, but why am I paying for it? That's just the way that I look at it. I believe it's absolutely foolish. And I'm black. You know what I'm saying? I would benefit from this. Okay? Would I like a check? Absolutely. Who wouldn't? Especially in this type of economy. Stuff's expensive. I'll be the first to tell you. Like, make no mistake about it. Would I love a check? Absolutely. But not under those circumstances. That's absolutely foolish to me. Absolutely silly. And shout out to the great Thomas Sowell because he also explained it as well. Check out this clip of the great Thomas Sowell.
And so if you're going to have reparations for slavery, it's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth back and forth and between and cross hauling, as they say in the railroads. Because the number of whites, for example, who were enslaved in North Africa by the Barbary pirates exceeded the number of Africans enslaved in the United States and in the American colonies before that, put together. But nobody is going to North Africa to ask for reparations because nobody is going to be fool enough to give it to them. Here we have intellectuals who can imagine a different history from the rest of the world, even though it's so similar to the rest of
the world. Absolutely. He made a great point right there as well. Black people weren't the only people that have ever been slaves on this planet. So where does the reparations end? Does it just end with black people? Or are white people entitled to reparations? Do the black people that own slaves here in America, because there were black slave owners, do the black people that own black slaves, do those black folks have to then pay black folks as well? Is that how that works? Are the white people that were enslaved on this planet, do they get reparations? And all of the other, races of people that were enslaved, do they get reparations as well? And how far back are we going? Right? And also, another great question about this, and we'll get out of here. And this is another reason why I believe this will never happen. Who says what is enough? Right? Who gets to decide what the reparation actually is? Is it land? And if so, how much land? And where? Who gets to decide that? Is it in the middle of Alaska, right? Or is it in the middle of, the city of Atlanta or something? Obviously those are going to be, the value of those are going to be drastically different. And how much? Is it money? And how much? And over what time period? Who gets to decide that? Because I guarantee you, if there was an amount that was put out there, generations from now, somebody's going to complain, oh, well, my grandfather decided on this. I didn't get any say. I need my reparations. I didn't have any type of say in that. They decided on that. Where was my voice? And it's just going to be this never-ending cycle of, so what are we talking about here? It's just, people just want to be victims, man. And it's honestly sad to watch, we're in a place where we have so much opportunity to do and become really whatever it is you want to do and become whoever you want to become, right? I mean, we see it all the time. Wealthy, extremely wealthy black people, Asians, right? Hispanics, white people from all walks of life that, or from all races that came from a poor background and made something of themselves. So I just, that whole argument is just mind boggling to me. I think it's just people just want to be victims. That's just my assumption, but what do y'all think? Let me know. Anyway, peace and love. I'm out.